Hey guys, so I am currently outside at UA campus. So I didn't really have time to get an actual person here because I've been going through my library school boot camp this week, and it's been really crazy. But I did have a really interesting conversation via text message with one of my friends. Um, basically. For the last like couple weeks or so, I had been like saying something, like comments like all the time about me being gay and whatever. And she's gay and was basically being like, "Oh, but you're not really gay. You're a guy with a girl. That's not gay." And so, it just kind of bothered me. And so I sent her a text last week basically being like, I'm not sure if you're joking with me or whether you really just don't get the complexity of what's going on here, but, please stop saying I'm not gay because it bothers me. And so she's like, oh, well, I was just kidding, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And so then the other day, I randomly get this text message, and she goes, so she goes, this is just randomly. Okay, so I have a question because since our conversation's been bugging me. So you're FTM, which means you're a guy and you're dating a woman. Throwing out the fact that you've only had top surgery, you still identify as male, pronouns, name, etc. So how do you feel that you're gay? I just thought of that when we talked about it, and it's confusing me. So obviously she was a little bit confused, and I'm really glad that she brought it up because I really, like people to know where I'm coming from. So I said, well, it's complicated. Basically, there are two factors at play here, my gender identity and my sexual orientation. I do identify in the FTM spectrum, which means that I do not identify as female and do identify as something closer to male. However, I also identify as genderqueer, which means that I primarily view myself as neither completely male or completely female. And then in parentheses, I wrote non-binary. So she said, I've never heard of that. That's why I was confused. Gender has never been something I've studied, and unfortunately, like, like the rest of most of society, I tend to be very black and white with it. Though I understand trans and am supportive, it's a very new area for me with lots to learn. I also put sexual orientation and gender together. Man loves woman equals hetero, man loves man equals gay, you know? I never realized there's so much gray area. Okay. So the next text that I was like kind of writing as she was responding, I said, secondly, sexual orientation refers to who you find attractive, not necessarily who you are with. For instance, a person who identifies as bi is still bi if they are currently dating a boy or a girl. They are still attracted to both on an abstract level. For me, I find all sorts of people attractive, some boys, some girls, some others. So just because I'm with a girl at the moment, my orientation is more broad. I prefer the term queer to define my sexuality since it's more complicated than just gay or straight, but I've identified with the gay world for a long time and value that connection. So then she said, I find it sad that while I'm a part of the gay community, I seem so ignorant about all of it. And then I said, well, you've just found a really good resource, smiley face. And she says, it's true, my friend Shay, while FTM doesn't really talk about it, plus he never actually studied gender and tends to identify as heterosexual. So, yeah, I hope you forgive my ignorance and don't mind me asking questions. And then I just responded, I love answering questions, and thanks for being honest with me and asking what you didn't know about. And she, basically just, thanked me for being so open about stuff and, how she wasn't sure if it was an offensive question or not, because you never really know what somebody's, hot button topics are, or what how touchy subject is. So, um, yeah, so that was pretty cool. She said she had some more questions, but like it's kind of hard to do over text. So I guess we'll probably talk more about stuff when we meet up again. But I just wanted to share that with you. And, sometimes, people don't want to ask stuff, not because they, don't care, don't want to know, but just because they're afraid of offending you. So I try to make myself as open as possible so that people feel comfortable asking me stuff because it's really not a big deal for me to answer. Um, yeah, so I guess I will talk to you all later. Yeah, and bye, I guess.